welcome to the Explainer. We're going to break down the huge shifts happening in Canada's population. It's really the story of us, who we are, where we're going, and honestly, what it all means for your future. All right, let's kick things off with just one number, 1.6. So what is that? Well, that's the average number of kids a Canadian woman has today. It might not sound like a big deal, but trust me, that one little number is quietly reshaping the future of our entire country. So, to really get why that number is so powerful, we got to look at it through the lens of demography. It's basically the science of human populations, and it gives us the tools to read the trends, to figure out who we are and where we're all headed. Okay, let's build that demographer's toolkit, shall we? We're going to quickly run through the key measurements that demographers use to see exactly how a population is changing. First up, we've got the birth rate. Now, this isn't just counting all the babies. It's the number of births for every 1,000 people in a year. And doing it this way is super important because it lets us compare a huge country with a tiny one and actually have it make sense. And on the flip side, you've got the death rate. It's the exact same idea, right? It measures how many people pass away each year for every 1,000 people. It's kind of the other side of that population coin. Okay, so what happens when you put them together? You take the birth rate, subtract the death rate, and boom, you get the natural increase rate. If that number is positive, it means more people are being born than are dying, so the population grows. If it's negative, well, it shrinks. Pretty simple, right? And one last thing. People move. The net migration rate is what tracks all this movement. You just take the number of people immigrating into a country and subtract the number of people emigrating, leaving. That's your net migration. And this is where it gets really interesting, because these simple numbers start telling a huge story. I mean, just look at the difference here. Togo's birth rate is massive compared to Canada and Japan. Numbers like this are like clues that can tell you so much about a country, things like its economy or even how good its healthcare is. All right, quick recap. A country's population basically has two engines that make it grow. You've got natural increase, that's the whole births minus deaths thing. And then you've got net migration, which is all about people moving in and out of the country. Okay, get ready, because this one chart, wow, it tells the entire story of Canada's growth. See the blue bars? That's our growth from natural increase, from births. Now look at the orange bars. That's growth from immigration. Way back when, it was pretty much all blue. But look what's happening now and where we're headed. The whole story just flips on its head. It's a total plot twist in our country's history. So if there's one thing to take away from that chart, it's this. The main engine driving Canada's population growth has completely changed. For most of our history, it was all about having more babies. But today, and for as long as we can see into the future, it's pretty much all about immigration. So that leads us to a big question, right? Let's zoom in on that immigration story. Why do people choose to come to Canada in the first place? And what kind of impact is that having on the country as a whole? Well, every immigration story is really about two things, push factors and pull factors. Push factors are the things that will push people to leave their home country, stuff like war or just no jobs. And then you have pull factors, the things that pull people to a new country like Canada. Job opportunities, a stable government, or maybe family and friends who are already here. So Canada has a few different ways for people to immigrate, but the biggest one by landslide is the economic class. It's basically a system that's designed to bring in people who have specific skills or education or work experience that our economy is really looking for. Okay, but Canada is a massive country, right? So when people get here, where do they actually go? Where do they decide to build their new lives? It turns out there are some really powerful patterns. Yeah, newcomers definitely don't spread out evenly across the country. There's a super clear pattern. If you look at provinces like Ontario and British Columbia, more than 1 out of every 4 people is an immigrant. That is a huge concentration when you compare it to other parts of Canada. And we can drill down even further. Within those provinces, the vast majority of newcomers are settling in the biggest cities. Places like Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. And it totally makes sense when you think about it. That's where the jobs are, where you can find communities of people from back home, and all the support you need to get started. All right, this brings us to the final part of our story. And honestly, it might be the most important part. Because this is where we stop talking about abstract numbers and charts and start talking about you. This thing right here is called a population pyramid. It's like a snapshot of our entire country broken down by age and gender. Now, if you're in grade 9, you are right about here. in that 15 and 19 age group. And let me tell you, your generation is about to become incredibly important. See, your generation is just about to become the core of the working population. And that means you'll be the ones supporting what demographers call the dependency load. That's a fancy term for everyone who isn't working. So kids who are too young and seniors who are retired. And this is so critical to understand because that dependency load, it's shifting in a huge way. In the past, it was mostly kids, but our whole population is getting older. So very soon, that load is going to be made up of mostly seniors. And that one shift, it's going to affect pretty much everything in your adult life. The healthcare system, what the job market looks like, and yeah, even the taxes you'll have to pay. So all of these numbers, all these charts, they add up to a story that's still being written. And understanding these big trends, it's not just about getting a good grade in class. It's about really understanding the country that you are inheriting, the world that you are about to step up and lead. So the real question is, what's your chapter in this story going to look like?